right, welcome to today's episode of the Australian Lawn and Garden Podcast. This is going to be a fascinating one because we're talking about a real Australian business here that does a lot of different things, but mostly focused on spraying. And we've got Brian, the head of customer care. So if you want a big cuddle, he's the guy you call. How you going, Brian?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Luke. Thanks for having me.
Well, I was telling you before that I love Australian business, and I'm a sprayer, a licensed spray technician, and I think a lot of our industry has always been interested in applying herbicides, fertilizers, wetting agents, whatever they need on large scale. As soon as you get into buying or looking at these products, it ends up being such a confusing landscape for anybody who doesn't know about it. You're worried about wasting your money. People don't mind spending money if there's return on investment, but they get so confused or caught up in it all. And so it's going to be great to have a chat with you, talk about the technical side of it, talk about what actually goes into this. And when you're looking at a $5,000 unit and a $2,000 unit, now you can understand what the differences are. So that's my goal. But yeah, and how are you going? How long have you been at the business? What's your favorite color? What do you wear for lunch? Tell us about yourself.
Obviously, my favorite color is TDI green. Been here for a bit over 14 years. I'm in my 15th year now. I started 15 years ago. Obviously, started in assembly, which is building products. Moved through into warehousing. Was warehouse manager, then into logistics. Did all that. Then moved into the operations side of it with helping down there, and purchasing. And then now I'm moved upstairs with sales and in the customer care role with Paul. And we look after our customers if they have any issues.
It must be pretty good. It must be a pretty good business to work there for 15 years in all those different roles.
It's been very, very good. Very, very rewarding. Great company to work for. Look after you. You look after them, they'll look after you, same as any other business, I think. But just to see the growth in the business over the last probably 10 years even is been massive and great to be a part of.
You're telling me something really fascinating. You've got multiple sites, but
correct,
just before we clicked record, you said that there's a small town you're in. I didn't catch the name. I have read it. Lathea, did you say?
Lathea, yes, that's correct.
How many people are in that town? And then how many people in that town work for you? Or not you directly?
Just under 3,000 in the town, I believe, and we employ just under 100 people all up. And in Lathea, there'd be close to 70, 80 people work on site.
That's a pretty big cut for a small business, small town. Do people move to the town because of the work, or does everybody in the town just accept that this is an option for work? You know,
it is an option for them if they want to. We do have a lot of people that live in Shep and other towns, Cobram, Kyabram, so surrounding towns that are within probably 40 minutes of us. So there is probably, I would say, half the workforce do travel, especially from Shepparton. But I would say the other half mostly live in town. Yeah.
I wonder how many people who are listening to the podcast are in that area. I would suggest not many.
Not many, probably.
If you are, send me a message on Instagram or through the Facebook page or something, because that's pretty cool. I did a podcast once where we talked about a town called Meekatharra in the middle of WA, and I was like, no one's ever heard of Meekatharra on this podcast, and kept talking. And then I got a message from someone saying, I'm from Meekatharra. I listened to the podcast.
It's funny, isn't it? Like if you've been on a holiday somewhere, I reckon even overseas, you generally find something, I know where you're from.
Yeah.
It's funny,
especially I actually watched the video. Well, this is completely irrelevant to anything we're going to talk about, but it's interesting. So the audience is either turning off or they're loving it. But I watched a video on someone got a globe, and they were looking at the globe, and they were having a chuckle to themselves about, or if you go to Europe, like there's so many massive places, like cities or towns next to each other, that they can't put them all in. Like the text goes over the top of each other.
Okay.
So Manchester in England isn't on the map, even though there's, probably millions of people there. Then you go to Australia and there's like dozens of towns with less than 1,000 people on the map. And they said there's I think Air Hotel or Motel or something like that in the Nullarbor, which doesn't. It's not even a town.
Yep.
It's a fuel station with a motel, and so it'd be less than 100 people. It'd be 50 people or something like that staying out there any night, and it makes our map because we're so big and vast, and there's nothing. So, anyways, are you guys that 3,000 people? You must be fairly isolated, but not that bad.
Not that bad. No, we're not far from the Murray. Nice place to live.
And have you lived there your whole life? That's where you're from?
I've lived here for probably 30 years. Yeah, not all my life, but yeah, been in
Pretty
Victoria.
close.
Yeah.
Yeah. You look about 31, so,
Thanks. You're very kind.
there's it. Well, okay, let's get into spraying stuff. So TDI,
Yes.
Australian manufactured, saying most of your products made right here. What separates, or what would you say is the number one thing that separates the Australian side, or what makes it special, what makes it unique, what makes it something worth looking into for the audience? Because you can say, oh, yeah, it's Australian manufactured, but is it better?
I believe it is. We rotary mould our own tanks. So we have 3 ovens here on site, and when we rotary mould anything from, I think we start at 100 litre egg sort of size tank up to 17,000 litres. We're primarily just water cartage and spray equipment. So
Mm-hmm.
So our motto is water that moves, basically. So
Mm-hmm.
we mold, we're not into the rainwater tank gig or anything like that. We're into spray gear and firefighting gear, etc. Stuff that looks after Australia, like people can use to protect and serve the land.
So 17,000 litres, did you say?
Yeah, it's a big tank.
How much is that? Like, what ballpark would that cost just for the tank?
Pretty close dollar for dollar, so nearly 17 grand.
There you go. Well,
Yeah.
I tell you what, that seems cheap compared to what I was expecting.
Then we'll start adding stuff to it. If you want to put pumps,
That's true.
etc., and all that sort of stuff, but just as a bare tank, yeah.
No, I just wanted a tank as an ornamental feature in my backyard. My 15 square meters I've got out here.
Yep.
No, I think I
Yeah.
need some pumps. But what would someone buy a massive tank like that for? Like water cartage, or is there actual herbicide
Correct.
applications?
Yeah, water cartage. There is a lot of farmers now, especially big cropping farmers, that need that sort of size tank. And because ours are rotary molded, they're quite thick-walled tanks. They use it for liquid fertilizer
Yep,
and all
yep,
that sort
yep.
of stuff. So that's a big one that's been the last couple of years that's taken off. That farmers need that sort of storage.
I've found for myself, I was telling you before offline that I've got a 100-litre spray tank that is not really cutting the mustard for me.
Yep.
A lot of it is, it's the inexperience and not understanding what I actually needed before I got into it. And one of the things was that cutting corners on the size of tank is something I regretted. And this is just a personal experience for me, because I can see why a farm would want a 17,000 litre tank for liquid fertilizer, because if you've got liquid fertilizer, sometimes needs a lot of water to apply
Yep.
it out, right? For the
Yep.
application rate to be on label. And the time to refill a 100-litre tank is forever. So imagine if you got 10,000
Especially in a garden
litres.
hose.
Exactly. But if you got 10,000 litres and you had to sit there, and I'd just be like, yeah, give me the biggest tank you've got, to prove my masculinity, because that's obviously, part of the deal. But secondly, the time saved on just refilling all the time when you got a large site, I can imagine why someone would get it.
Yeah. And we cater for a lot of our big tanks. We have what we call hydrogen fill, which you can use. That the Shires will have fill points, which is 3-inch. You can couple up to them, and they're a quick fill sort of solution. And we have the right proper gear for that to be done properly. So there's a space gap there for it, so that there's no contamination. And you can fill it up to 17,000 litre tank within 20, 30 minutes.
Have you ever had a story where, I mean, I'm sure there is, and I hope it's not a chemical spill or something like that, but where someone's done something stupid and a massive tank like that has cracked or fallen off, or they crashed into something?
I have had a photo of a truck that rolled over with one of our tanks on it, and the tank never broke.
Oh, wow. Really?
So it was actually upside down in a creek, and the tank never failed. So the actual truck wasn't too good. But yeah, the tank survived, no worries. And he actually took the tank off and put it on a new truck.
Wow, really?
So that's fairly good, isn't it? And that was only a water cartage. Spray gear, we don't normally get as big as that. You don't need to. But
No, yeah.
yeah, it was still bolted onto the truck, so it was fixed down properly. So that was good.
I saw it reminds me of another meme that I saw where somebody had crashed a trailer with a tractor on it and it had rolled several times and the trailer was destroyed, but the tractor was still strapped onto the like what was left of it. And someone was like, I gotta find the guy who strapped that down like this.
Because he knows how to
He
tie
knows
things
something
down.
we don't. Exactly. All right, mate. So okay, let's talk about this rotor molding.
Yep.
You were telling me before what was that most tanks we're buying as gardeners on the smaller side of things, but even to a medium size. So let's put the ranges 100 to 400 liters is probably what most people listening to this podcast, if they're wanting to go down the path of going to TTI, they're probably interested in that range. Some might need a little bit more. Some maybe you do have 55 liter options. But you were saying there's two different types, rotor molding and a different type. I can't remember what you called
Blow
it,
molding. Yeah.
but blow molding. And
Blow
by
molding.
the
Yeah.
sounds of it, blow molding is cheaper, easier to do, not
Yep.
as good. Is that
Not
the
as good.
story?
Well, the walls are thinner. When you do blow molding, it's in a mold. It's air injected into the mold, and then cooked, and then it pops out. And the wall on a blow mold tank would only be 1 mil to 2 mil thick at the most. You go to rotary molding, the minimum usually is about a centimetre minimum. We have some
Right.
spots on corners, etc., of our tanks that are upwards of 3 to 4 mil thick.
Three,
So
4 centimeters. Is that what you're
centimeters,
saying?
yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
not
because
mils, centimeters
not
thick.
mil.
So they're a lot thicker tank, and totally different polymer as well.
People, if you've been enjoying this Makers Month series, we're in the second half of it now. If you've been loving that, the reality is that has only been able to happen or been able to be produced because of the Patreons. You may not know this, but the work that goes behind the scenes is insane. We've been doing sort of 11 p.m., 12 p.m. finishes pretty much every day since this series started, and a little bit before that, to be honest, as well. And here's the thing: I'm not editing these podcasts at all. We have an editor now. So it's just a sheer amount of work. If you're enjoying this and you've been listening to them, we're not getting paid by the brands. This is trying to be as unbiased as possible. And so, people, if you like this series, jump on the Patreon. We need that support because at the end of the series, there won't be anything left, any money left. So going forward, we need some of that support. So people jump on if you're enjoying it. Become a patron. You become $5 a month, or you can give $5 a month, or $16.50. Now, if you say that's not within my means, totally fine. No judgment, no pressure. But if it's within your means and you are enjoying it, then go for that. Now, a way that you can support without the money is to share on social media. Help us get more people who listen, more people who watch. And anyways, I want to say thank you to those patrons because honestly, I can't handle too many more of these late nights. So thanks for supporting and paying for that editor. Anyways, let's get back in the podcast. So let me put some photos up on the screen because
Yep.
we've got the website here.
Yep.
And we've got old mate over here, one of the team. And for
So
those
that's
who
virgin powder. So that's what we mold our tanks with. So that's the powder going into a mold, and then behind there's the oven. So that'll go in there and get cooked.
it looks a little bit like literally flour, as in
Good analogy. Very fine. Yes, it is very much like that.
cornstarch or something like that.
Yeah. It's a little bit coarser than flour, but yeah, it's goes in as a raw product like that, and it's food grade. So it's we do potable water, which is water that people can drink. We have customers that run trucks, etc., for that, and so it is food grade quality. It's virgin stuff. And then you put that in there. It goes into the mold. The mold's clamped up, goes into an oven, and it rotates. So as it gets hot, it rotates, tips back and forth. So the plastic goes all over the mold, and then it comes out for cooling.
How long does it take to cook it?
Obviously, it depends on size of the tank. Like you could have a 17,000 litre tank, which is going to take you probably a good 3-4 hours plus cooling, and then you can have the smaller tank. So that one there, just behind him in that picture, is about 200 litre tank. and that one would probably take a bit over half an hour.
So if I zoom in here, that's
Yeah,
the mold shut. Is that what you're saying?
that's correct. Yeah, that's the mold clamped up shut. So when you get a tank and you see a little seam line around the edge, around it, you, it's
Yep.
not joined. You know what I mean? That's just where the mold joins. It's actually
Yep.
fully.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. People think, oh, do you glue them together? No, we don't glue them together. It's rotary molding.
No.
That's just where we pull a mold apart to get the tank out.
We had a one of the podcasts that we've talked about was with an Australian inventor who created something that is completely different to your side of the industry, but it's a little sensor that goes into compost and it senses the gases and stuff like that. Anyways,
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
a whole different subject. But what came up in the podcast was that the little mold that they use to make this plastic that needs to be able to withstand the heat and stuff like that of being exposed all the time. The
Yep.
mold was $70,000 for this little thing, right? I'm assuming these are just being bigger and then turning and twisting and all that kind of stuff. What
Yep.
what is the cost of it? Just the mold?
It can vary obviously in size, but they are quite expensive. And we only have one or two molds of each product, and usually only one mold for the
Yep.
bigger stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
So they are quite expensive, and but that mold shed, which is behind me, as you can see, back over there,
Yep.
we run that for. There's 2 shifts in that now, so it's running for a good 12 hours or more, just
So
to get
do you
enough
know off the
product
top of
out.
your head just to make a mold, because that's a lot of things with the manufacturing that people don't realize is that the tools are so expensive. They might look
Correct.
at it and go, let's say I'm making up numbers here. We've got $1,000 tank. They go, oh, that's only $80 worth of plastic. Or I don't even know what it is. People
Yeah,
don't quote me on this. But they go, oh, how can it be so expensive? And it's like, yeah, well, the mold costs, crazy money.
thousands.
And then
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah,
then the
you got your
labor
mold
is
costs
through the roof.
thousands. The frame it goes on has to be all made. They're fairly unique. There's not many people. The new oven we've just put in, and it's not even quite fully operational. Um, it's thousands and thousands of dollars, $100,000 just for the oven to cook these things. So yeah, then there's normally 3 trolleys on the mold so that you can put one in, one's cooking while another one's coming out cooling, and then you're preparing another one to go back in. So it's a non-stop sort of production. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, dollar wise, yeah, as you say, oh, how can that? There's only 50 kilos of powder in that. How can that be so dear? Well, there's also paying 3 blokes to mold
Yeah.
it. There's also R&D. There's the bloke who made the mold originally. A lot of hours go into it. They've got to be smooth. They get sandblasted. There's also maintenance with
Really?
them. Yep. Our tanks, when they come out, they look like they're not a shiny finish. They're a little bit of a ripple on them, as in, like, I suppose, like a bit like an orange.
Okay, yep.
That's just from the sandblasting, but it also helps protect the plastic as well. So if you get it too shiny, you can see every scratch, every dint in it.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's like a chrome bumper. If it's got a few scratches on it,
Yep.
you notice it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's
Yeah.
like I was getting an aluminium box made for my truck,
Yep.
and the guy was like, "Do you want smooth aluminium or do you want the checkerboard or whatever they call it, checker plate, whatever it is?"
Yep.
And I was like, "Oh, smooth sounds interesting," and he was like, "Don't do it."
Straight away, don't do it.
I was asking you to be polite. I was hoping you would say. I was
Give you
hoping
an
you would
option, but
say
I'm not going to tell you what you should have.
exactly, because as soon as you get a scratch on it and a ding or whatever, it's just you'll never
Yeah.
not see it. Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, back a little bit. Talking about the manufacturing process.
Yep.
You're talking about you're getting your powder, you're putting your powder in. There's a. I'll try and describe it for people because I think people got the idea, but a lot of people aren't watching, so they're listening while they work or whatever. So
Yep.
we've got basically think about two big. I'm just describing what I can see here. 2 big metal Tupperware containers.
Correct. Yeah, 2
right?
boxes. Yeah.
And then you put them, clamp them either side. It looks like some very heavy duty chassis and
Yep.
well, I'm calling it a chassis, but look, things that clamp
Framework.
it all
Yep.
together. Yeah, someone's got a couple of anyways, I was going to say like clothes pegs, but they're much more heavy duty than that. But you've clamped this whole
The
thing together.
G clamps are usually what we do. They're rattle gun together, so that's pretty heavy duty stuff. Like putting it together. I don't know whether people know what a G clamp is. It's they're a clamp that's industrial. You rattle them up with a rattle gun.
All right. So look, and then we've got basically you've got a big bag. So think about like your big bag of fertilizer or a bigger bag than that, but like it's just classic bag of product.
Yeah,
And
well, we have those size bags. They're 25 kilo or 20 kilos now because of weight restrictions of people lifting.
yep.
So they're 20 kilo bags. But we also do bulker bags for the big tanks. So we'll know that
Okay. Yeah.
a big tank needs a bulker bag, which is, farmers would know like a fertilizer bag can hold a ton or half a ton, whatever we want.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So basically, what this guy's doing is he's tipping the dry powder into the bottom half of my Tupperware container analogy. Another
Yep.
one goes on top, and it spins around inside an oven.
Correct.
Essentially,
Yep.
is it very fast? Is it using centrifugal force?
No, it's not very fast. It's actually quite slow. It's slow so that when it starts to melt, it rolls around and gets in every part of that outside of that mold.
Is there a specific type of I'm going to say algorithm, but that's not the word for it, like a process or whatever it is that it needs to spin at this for a certain time and this and this and this to get it
Yeah, there's
even?
definitely is. There's a lot of science in it. Of the angles, we have to have it put on the frame so that it covers the points, the key points, so there's good coverage in all points. Because a mold's not just a square box. There's lids. There's where pins have got to go.
True.
There's also little nut inserts that we screw lances onto, etc. Stuff like that. That's all got to be covered completely. And then there's also a time for it to be cooked and a time for it to be cooled. So,
what temperature does it go at? Like, how hot is it oven?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's very, very hot. It's they're gas fueled ovens. They get quite hot. It's obviously melting plastic basically, but not to the point that it's igniting.
Here's a dumb question. Have you ever cooked a pie in there?
No, but I have like
legally no,
Mr.
but you
Stitt
thought
his
about
pie
it
on the side of it to warm it up. Didn't take long.
Really?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's the best place to work in winter and the worst place to work in summer.
100%. They hate it in summer. Some of them, like our first shift starts at 2 a.m. They like that shift. It's the coolest. And the poor Arvo shift boys start at 2 in the afternoon, and it's very hot. But in winter, it's a great place to be.
We're actually in a big heat wave at the moment in Perth, and I don't know what my wife sent it to me. I'll get it on my phone. I didn't even realize because I've been so busy, but yeah. So yesterday was 35, 36. Today should be 35. Tomorrow 38, 39, 38, 39, 37, 34. That's a little bit over a week.
Yeah.
So I won't be flying over to help you out this week. So
yeah, it's a little bit cooler here. Where I think we're low 30s here. Oh, sorry, not even low 30s, high 20s here. So not too bad.
That's good. That's good weather. All right. Well, that's a fascinating thing. So, and then because you're doing that process and it's spinning around, and you're putting a lot more, you're able to basically get a much thicker wall.
Yeah.
Much sturdier tank.
For every size tank, we have a specific amount of powder for them to be in, which is the plastic. So yeah, it's designed to be thick, strong. That's why we have a 20-year warranty with those tanks. Now, 20 years is we've been
20
operating.
years.
20 years. We've been operating for over 25. We've had very few tails with tanks.
And what causes it? Like, because I know that some products will expand and contract. So I don't know if that causes things to break, but
can do. In our tanks, we allow that tolerance for expanding and contraction in heat. They are plastic. They're not perfect. But they can handle that, and they're designed to handle that.
A 20-year warranty. I feel like I've been in the industry since I was 15. Right, that was when I got my first paid gardening gig. I'm almost 30, so that's 15 years in the industry, or 14 and a half years, or whatever it is. So I could have bought a TTI tank and in my entire career, I'm still in the warranty period.
Yeah.
I feel like my body doesn't have a warranty period that long.
No, mine
Like,
doesn't.
have you ever thought about that?
No.
Bionic arms or something like
Oh, never for me.
that. I'll show you a couple other things. So you've got some photos down here, just the fabrication, the molding. You've
Yep.
got the warehouse, logistics. I'll see if I can open that. No, I can't open that in the new tab. Oh well. But yeah, so it's a proper Australian business. Very
Yep.
interesting that like, this is the kind of stuff I was curious about, because you don't get this information on the side of a box when you're going to buy something that's larger. Another question for you is, what size? You're saying that on your smaller stuff, so
Yep.
55, 100 liter, that's imported and blow mold,
Some of them,
right?
yes. Most of it is, yeah.
So where does it say on the tank or in the sale stuff on the line which ones are blow mold and which ones are rotary mold?
No, they don't, unfortunately. So any of your weed master or weed control range are imported from the US with the blow mold, and then everything else we make.
Yeah,
So you
well, it's
can get a
still
tank that's what we make down to 100 litres and anywhere up from that. But also we have those other ones just to, it's horses for courses. Everybody needs a product, and we just try and fill the need there.
yeah, and I can totally understand why you wouldn't want something thinner on the larger stuff. So you're basically
Yeah,
saying,
and that's the
so
thing.
this,
Once you get over our blow molded, our largest is a 225 tank, uh,
Mhm.
is the largest in that, and everything else under that. But in our rotary molded, like I said, we can start at 100 litres or 50 litres even, and go up
Mhm.
to 17,000. So
It just depends on the budget and the needs, I guess.
correct, yeah. And of course, the tank warranty is on what we make here. So we can't give that guarantee for the blow molded stuff because we don't make it. But the Australian manufactured stuff that's rotary molded, yes, we do.
All right. That's a cut from my editor. Thanks, Joseph. We will put a little thing in there, and then
Yep.
we'll get back into the backpack stuff.
Awesome. Yep.
All right, so we're back. We have got, let's start with this. You got the Interrange. Now, you told me before on that you think that this is the best sprayer in the market. Obviously, there's
Yep.
more than one sprayer. 5-year warranty.
Correct.
What makes a sprayer a good sprayer compared to the classic stuff we're buying in our local Bunnings?
Well, as we talked on before about my rotary molding and blow molding, these are a different type of molding technique. Again, they're a lot thicker. They're not a blow mold per se, but they are a lot thicker. Tough, very tough tank. We had a bloke do some tests for us, dropped one off 2 stories and bounced, didn't break. Now, I don't think you'd do that with your home garden sprayer. I wouldn't even
No,
drop it from the 4 or 5
I've dropped
meters.
one off a trailer and broke it. Yeah,
Yeah,
before
yeah, they just
off
don't.
the
These
back
are
of the
really
Ute.
tough. The other thing is
I
the
mean,
componentry in them. They're really good quality componentry. Come from Italy. You do not need a spanner or shifter or anything to fix them. That you can fix it by just with your hands. You don't need tools to actually fix these or change anything on these, change a nozzle or a lance or anything like that. They're great.
I find that there's there's so many little niches within every single part of the industry, right? Like
Yep,
we talked before, like about MoMaster, right? High quality
yep,
cylinder mowers. We had them on. It's not. I mentioned them for the listener because it's.
yep,
I feel similar in terms of Australian business. Most stuff is made here, blah blah. But yeah, if you talked to a lot of people, didn't really know what they were 5-6 years ago because they were kind of designed for stadiums and cricket pitches, and then WA contractors knew all about them because they're in WA, and we all selling them all over here. But over east, like,
yep,
and then all of a sudden, people kind of find out about the brand, and it grows in reputation and stuff because you have, yeah, there's, for better or worse, there's big brands with market cap and a lot of marketing budget.
yep.
So interesting. So these are coming out of Italy, you're
Yes.
saying?
Yep.
Now, what kind of price are we looking at? I'm assuming because of that, they're not the cheapest on the market. Let's say this 12 liter Well, actually, there's an IK industrial backpack sprayer, and there's
Correct?
12-liter Evo backpack weed sprayer.
Yep.
What's the difference?
So an IK range, we call it an industrial range. It can handle acids, so it's got different
Oh, right.
seals in it. So if you're in an industry where you need to use acids for cleaning paint or something like that, that's the one you use. Your other
So it
inter-range, the
can
yellow
handle.
ones, yeah,
I was going to say, so it can handle corrosive stuff.
corrosive
Like,
stuff. Yes, correct,
do you reckon
100%.
it can handle my mother-in-law's attitude?
Oh, want to be tough.
I'm joking. I have a good mother-in-law. I'm just having
I
a
don't know your
laugh.
mother-in-law. She's obviously a lovely
She's
woman.
fine. She's fine. So yeah, so it's not necessarily a thing that we should be using in the gardening industry. I guess you
No, not
could.
unless you want to clean bricks or clean carpet or strip wallpaper or truck wash, that sort of stuff. That's what you use that for.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you got the Evo weed spray. Now the yellow, you're out of stock, mate. We picked
Oh,
the
the
wrong
12
time to do
litre
this
we are. I got
podcast.
16s though, so
Well, 12
we
and 16 would be what people would be getting, but let's say
yeah
12 because I think that's probably for most people going to cover their stuff. What
yeah
kind of price point are we looking at with the? And this is a hand pump, manual pump. There is a rechargeable battery one. We'll talk about in a minute.
yep.
What kind of price point are we looking at with that?
So you're looking around $250, just under for the 12 litre.
Mm-hmm.
Very very good unit in that it's a hand pump, but you've got a regulator in there in line, which means when you're spraying, you get that constant flow. The
Mm-hmm.
last thing you want to do is be constantly pumping it up and down because your flow drops off all the time. So they do have a little
Yeah.
regulator in there. Like I said, just very durable. Not much goes wrong with them.
And there's a lot of different options on there. People jump on the Trans Tank International or tti.com.au so you can look it up yourself.
Yep.
The other thing that I'm really interested in is this 16-liter Weed Master rechargeable backpack trolley
Yep.
sprayer, because it says it's a trolley sprayer, but it's
Yep.
not just a trolley sprayer. So I'll try and describe this for people. Think about a 16-liter backpack sprayer that has a trolley, has like straps like you'd wear as a knapsack,
Yep. You can.
and
Yep.
has a trolley that, if I understand this correctly, does the wheel section come on and off, or you can just
You can
put it on
take the
the
trolley on and off. Yeah, just the
yeah
little locks at the back. You can just sit on it and then lock it in, screw them in, and you can drag it around. It's great because it's a 16 litre, so it's got 16 kilos of water or pesticide or herbicide in it, plus the pump and motor, etc. So you're looking up around the 20 kilos, a bit more in weight. So it's a fair bit of whack to chuck on your back. Whereas the Inter, it's very lightweight, and you're only probably carrying 17 kilos. So this one's a lot heavier because of the battery, but because of the
yeah
battery, it's a lot more user friendly for people.
yeah no pumping, constant even
Constant flow,
flow.
you can regulate the flow on it. Yep, correct.
So I've got to be honest, Brian.
Rechargeable.
I'd never heard that you even did small stuff before.
Yep,
I came on. Sorry, excuse me. Before I was doing this research for the podcast,
yep,
and I was like, oh wow, because I knew all about your on deck stuff, and I'd
yep,
seen that. I actually been looking into potentially purchasing some about 2 years ago, I think. And so there's this whole different world of
small
products.
range of stuff that we supply for Australians. Yes, correct.
Now, some people might be looking at that and go, for just for the audience, to talk to you for a second, you might be looking at this going, I don't know why I would want a knapsack with a trolley. I'll tell you why you want one. A lot of products, if you're going to go down the route of applying certain herbicides and fungicides, something that's becoming more common. And I talked to somebody at Syngenta about this before the podcast, like before I was even doing the podcast. And they were saying it's getting more and more common for herbicides to have on the label to say that you are not allowed to spray this with a knapsack that's on your back. So you have to have either something by your side or something in a trolley. And if you are the type of person, like for example, I don't know if you know this, Brian, but a very common herbicide for lawn care is bromoxynil mixed with MCPA. That's what you find in Surefire Buffalo and Bindi and
Yep,
all that kind of stuff, right? There's a new formulation that came out, and because it was slightly different, excuse me, because it was slightly different, the new label, even though it's the same active ingredients, said you're not allowed to apply this with a product with a knapsack on your back. You have to have, it's either a handheld thing by your side, which obviously 16, 20 kilos, you're saying all up, that's not pleasant to hold that by your side the whole time.
No, no,
Or
it's correct.
it's got
Yeah,
to be something on a trolley. And so for those people who are wanting to apply those products, that's it. It actually is a great versatile option to have one sprayer that does both things.
100%. And safety is, we're at TDI, we're all about safety, and this one, gives you that safety. As like you said, you wouldn't want that chemical anywhere near your body, basically, and especially up near around your head where the lid is on your back. So this gives a great option there that you can just reel it around.
Mm-hmm.
It's low. If you spilt it, you're not going to spill it on yourself, which is a knapsack you will.
Yep.
And that's the same with that's why we do a handheld into one up to about 9 kilos, because 9 kilos is comfortable carrying one hand. Any more than that, and you're struggling.
I'll tell you a story about, I mentioned very briefly before that I dropped a sprayer. I didn't
Yep.
actually drop it. One of my employees did. And we didn't realize, but a very small hairline crack developed at the top of the sprayer. And what ended up happening was we filled it with glyphosate.
Yep.
And it was basically like at probably say the 12 to 14 liter mark, right? So it had been dropped with product in it and nothing leaked out because it might have been say 5 liters of product or something, right? And then we filled it up all the way, and one of our employees had this sprayer on their back, and we lifted it up, put it on their back, and was like, "What's this?" And luckily, it didn't walk over anything, but
Yep.
yeah, it was leaking out, and the sprayer was wrecked, and we just used it for spare parts after that.
Yep.
That's the kind of stuff that it does happen, and we were lucky that it was noticed straight away. It's almost like if the leak was less noticeable, we would have had drops of glyphosate all over clients' lawns and things like that as you're walking across it.
Yeah, and not only that, as it falling on the ground and damaging your environment around you that's going where it's not supposed to. You could also get a chemical burn from it, depending on what you got in there.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So that's an interesting option. So, oh look, the price on the website, $359, which I don't feel that's quite competitive
yeah,
compared
we've
to
tried to
some
keep it
other options
competitive. We've
out there.
had a few people ask, we're going to upgrade the battery to a lithium battery, etc. I mean, if we put in a lithium battery in it, yes, we'll get a longer charge life out of it, but also your cost is going to go up at least another $100. So it's we like it at that range where it's affordable for people, as opposed to being nearly $400-500, and it's not.
Well, I'll read some stats out for people. It is 2.4 liters a minute, 70 psi, which is quite a good flow.
Yep.
What is the runtime? Does it have it on here? What is the runtime with the battery that you have in there? Here we
So
go. 2 hours continuous spraying time.
yeah,
I
you can do
found it.
2 hours continuous spraying. So you can refill it again. You'll go through I would say you go through 2 to 3 tanks at that time, depending on how quick and what you're spraying.
And what's the recharge time on it?
Usually, we like to say if you run it for 2 hours, you'd rest it for 2 hours, but also that charge would take that time. So just to get it to cool down too.
Yep.
A lot of people with, especially with electric motors, we run Remco pumps. Yes, it's great that they can run for a long time, but also for every length of time you run them, you need to cool them as well, give them a bit of a break. They can overheat if they're constantly run all the time. And I know contractors don't have that luxury; they've got to get jobs done, etc. But yeah, it's important that to keep the life of your pump, that you actually give it some rest as well.
Well, I kind of feel, my personal opinion is, if you're doing 2 hours of spraying and you're going to fill up a 16-liter sprayer 3 times, you probably are using the wrong sprayer. And I understand when
Yeah,
you're in the business and you say you have one job that someone's asked and you're not going to do it again. Yeah, use the equipment you've got. Don't go spend thousands of dollars on an upgrade. But if no one is spraying all the time,
no.
there's
I mean, this
with
is a
something
great
like
mum
that.
and dad one too, because it's on a trolley. They can drag it around and use it anywhere. And like you said, you'll only probably use a tank.
Yeah, well, 16 liters is going to
Get you a
cover a
fair
lot of
way.
lawn. So, like, yeah, and fertilizers and stuff will. My thinking is for most people, if they're wanting to do larger areas, they're probably going to look at your next stuff, which is a great segue. It sounds like
Yep.
I'm a professional. So I've got the 12-volt sprayers here in front. For those who are listening, there is a massive range from, well, it says 150 liters to 300, but it's 55 liters up to
Two, 225,
400 liters.
and even
Well,
400 liters in the rotary molded ones. Yeah.
yeah, so 225 in the blow mold.
Yep.
And actually, I didn't ask before, with blow mold, is it the same type of way that they make drink bottles? Because I've seen that video where they've got the little test tube size of plastic and they blast air into it, into a mold, and just,
Yep.
and there's your bottle.
Exactly same process. Yeah.
There you go. I see. I watch weird stuff on YouTube sometimes. You know, just whatever comes up, and I'm like, wow, this is a fascinating manufacturing process.
Yeah.
15 minutes later, I'm an expert on blow molding. Apparently,
You
at
tell
least
me
I
how to
feel
do
like I am. Maybe I will come over this week.
it.
No, I'm joking.
But more than welcome.
But no, okay. So yeah, so it's a little thin bit of plastic. Is it? I'm guessing it's warm or something like that, and they just blast the air in, and then yeah, hits the side of the mold, and
Yep.
Bob's your uncle.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, so looking at this range, this range and the on deck range are the ones that are most likely going to be of interest to the consumer. So in this
Yep.
market, right? If they're looking at trans tank, they're looking for these kind of products. What's the biggest things that separate your product for something that's cheaper or maybe even the same sort of price range, but yeah, from a different brand? Not naming brands, just getting the idea.
Yep. We all the componentry on them we stock. We have them in Australia. If you need a part, you can get it. You don't have to wait for it to be imported, etc. All that sort of stuff. We carry a full range. And on the ones that we obviously rotary mold, which is you're talking about your on decks and those sort of things. That one there you just highlighted. Yep, they're made here in our factory. All put together, tested, wet tested before they go. So they're fully operational and running before you even used it.
If I look at, I'm going to try and do something technical on here. Look,
Yep.
I got it right. Sweet, awesome. So you've got the 95 liter weed control,
Yep.
and you've got the 100 liter. And so the weed control, for those who are listening, that is the blow mold,
Correct.
and that is with the pump. We can talk about it. That 727, and then your rotary mold is 1841. So a lot of people will look at that and go, oh, I'm not so sure about that massive price difference. It also explains why there's a price difference. Actually, is there a different pump on this? I should check.
Yes, there is a slightly different pump. They all will be eventually. Even the weed control, we're going to push them to a Remco, so they'll possibly go up a little bit in price. But they're the same. They're a 12-volt pump. Most of them we run as 100 psi, 8.3 liters a minute. And then there's a good quality gauge and regulator from an Italian importer that we get them from. But the steel frame and all that sort of stuff is made here. Obviously, the tank is made here, and then it is all put together here.
So, well, this one does come on a steel frame, and it's surrounded. Well, it's strapped in, not strapped in,
strapped down. A strap over it, but
held down. Yeah, it does look quite different, people. And a regulator is not something that will come on most sprayer. Is that coming on your 95 liter as well?
Yeah, 95s they do. They do have a regulator there.
Really?
You see the gauge and that. It's not a good quality, obviously, but as is reflected in the price, I suppose.
Well, but if you look at the standard stuff that's out there, and I have looked at it a lot, there's a regulator is really rare, a pressure regulator for your average 100 liter stuff that's being sold at most shops.
Okay.
So,
you know, and with the weed master, like there's a filter on the bottom of the hose, whereas you go to our stuff that we make, we have a filter just before the pump, which you can undo, clean. It's more serviceable.
Yeah.
So a lot better unit to work with.
So $1,800 for that, and it looks like there's a few other. Is there a little boom that comes?
It's a little boom. That's a silage master. So there's a lot of blokes that I don't know whether on your side that listen here that do contracting hay, etc. Put inoculant on stuff before they bale it. That's what we set one up for. So it's a little spray that sprays the grass before it goes into a baler.
Well, it's I should go back to the rest of the stuff that you've got because there's a wide variety. I just wanted to compare two very similar products
Sizes,
at
yep,
the end of the day. That yeah, they're not. Yeah, you're right. They're similar sizes, but they're not necessarily exactly covering the same type of thing.
yep.
So, who would be best served by the 95 litre blow mold, and who would be best served by not necessarily the silage application or the hay application, but that 100-litre rotary mold?
Range, yep.
Yeah,
So, people with just a normal garden, maybe an acre or so, uh, not even a hobby farmer, I reckon, for a blow molded one, simply because if you had a trailer, they're not, they're solid wheels in them. They're not going to take the bumps and bashing around as good as our other range, which has got flotation
sure.
tyres on it. Um, and just yeah, just the capacity there. Like you need to have like lawn. It's perfect for your customers that want a lawn, that sort of stuff.
So flat, even surface.
Yeah,
It's not going to take much abuse. So it sounds like if someone's going to have this tank sliding around the back of their ute, right? It's probably not
it's
the tank
probably
for
not going to
them,
last as well. Definitely won't last 20 years. Put it that way.
right? Whereas you do have a 20-year warranty on
Yeah, on our
this, and if
rotary
you
molded stuff. Yeah,
so for the contractor who is doing actual, it sounds like the blow mold stuff is probably more for hobbyist or maybe a
yep,
contractor who's really stuck at a price point and just wants to get into the market.
yeah,
There's
yep,
something that they know is not going to last them forever,
yep.
and the blow
Correct.
mold stuff is it's proper. It can handle stuff, all
Rotary
that
molded
jazz.
is as strong as it is. Like I said, we're happy to give a 20-year warranty to replace a tank. That's why we do it. It's very thick and very strong.
What I like about this metal frame as well is I can't describe it very well for those who are listening, but it's got like a it's kind of like an upside down table, and the tank sits between the legs. But you got
Yeah,
this flat
it cradles
bottom.
the tank. The straps are there just to hold it in place. They're not putting pressure on the tank at all. It's just to hold it in place. The frame is very solid. It'll Yeah, you can put it on anything and it'll slide around, and it fully dipped gal dipped frame as well. It's not just painted. We do all our frames are gal dipped, so there's an extra cost with that. But we think that's how they last.
So what I'm getting at is because it's on a metal frame, right?
Yep.
Um, Listeners will know that because I've talked about my sprayer setup, which I'm not 100% happy with, right? But it kind of does the job. I had to make my own metal frame to bolt my sprayer to, so that I could put it on top of my stand-on uh, mower, and
Yep.
I had to add. You would have to add some legs to the bottom of this frame, but that would be so easy compared to the work that I went through to make
Yeah.
something suitable. And people already know this because I've talked about this in another podcast when we had the guys from BA Pumps on. The problem is that when you don't know what you're doing with this, I thought that I needed to make myself a custom solution, and because I didn't really know what I was doing, even though I knew more than what I'd say the average person would know about sprayers,
Yep.
average gardener, I ended up making something that I thought would be right for me, and it wasn't right for me. And then now looking at this kind of stuff, it's like I should have just bought this, put some legs on it, or even there's some mowers that have the ability to put stuff just coming to mind. We had the Greenworks stand-on mower, which is a
Yep.
battery mower, and it has a platform where the engine would have been if it wasn't battery. You could literally just strap this down as it is on top of one of those pieces of kit,
Yep.
and you're done.
You're
Like the
done. Yeah.
frame already works. Whereas, so there's a lot of value in that for a contractor that is got a mower or they've got something else that they can chuck it on that's not quite the back of a ute. Anyway, so it's
Yep.
just I'm verbally processing there, but it sounds like for certain people, that's actually a really good option.
We try and make a range that'll suit most people and most vehicles applications. So, because we're Australian and we build it for Australian conditions, we can do that. We also, not that our ops officer wants me to tell you this, we do custom jobs. So if you have a vehicle that you need for it to something to fit on, we can do that.
Well, don't say that on a podcast. It's going to be listened by loads
We'll
of
have custom
people.
jobs coming out our ears.
Yeah, exactly. And you said they're all free, aren't they? All the extra
No,
work
yeah,
is.
right.
Oh dear. Next thing I want to look at is this Trail Pro. Now, you talk about the Weedmaster. I don't want to go into this too much, but there are some light duty trailers that come
Yep.
with those things, and you sort of mentioned very briefly that they're for the hobbyist and for the nice little lawn.
Yeah.
This is pretty flipping heavy duty. Do you guys
Yeah.
make this? You fabricate it on site?
100%. Yep. So
If
just
I'll
about
just
every part of
describe
that
it.
is made
Sorry,
here
I'll
in the
just.
factory. Yep.
Sorry, I'll just describe that for the audience. Classic internet phone call. This is like, think about like an actual full-on trailer, proper galvanized metal, holding a 200-liter spray tank on the back, not just like an afterthought of, metal chucked underneath the bottom of it or something like that, which you can buy for a much cheaper price point. And if that's what you are looking for, then fantastic. But this looks to me like the kind of thing that is for a contractor. It looks like it can handle the abuse, and it's towed behind. If you've got a ride on lawnmower, if you've got your ATV or your side by side or something like that, this seems like a very good option, because you've got a reel that's probably 30 meters just looking at that, and
Correct.
you've got a little boom out the back. So 200 liters covers much for people who are doing acreage.
Yep.
This seems like the option. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, anything from 2 to 5 acres and upwards. We have farmers that buy these, as you can see in the picture there, drive around, spray their paddock. But also with that boom, we call it a versatile boom. And the reason we call it a versatile boom is its versatility of it. It'll spray 4 meters wide as it's set up with all the nozzles on, but you can turn it off and only have a side nozzle on, and the side nozzle will go 1.2 meters, and you can dry along beside your fence and spray all underneath your
Oh, wow.
fences,
Yep.
so that you don't have shorts on electric fences, etc., all that stuff, and keep your property nice and tidy, so for fires, etc. And it's great.
Yeah, that is, just looking at that, knowing the audience, if you're someone who's doing a lot of ride on lawn mowing,
Yep.
you've got that option then to do that kind of stuff. Because that's the other thing as well. Like, we hate whippersnipping if you're doing acreage stuff.
Yeah.
Spray all the edges with glyphosate. Like, for residential stuff, it's the ugliest thing you've ever seen in the world, right? But I was mowing a private school yesterday. The contract, I think I said offline that we only do one large thing. And this private school I was mowing last fortnight ago, I glyphosated around the trees to prevent me from whippersnipping. It looks fantastic, right?
Yeah.
And I did that by hand, right? Not with a Trail Pro. Probably hard to do trees with a Trail Pro, to be fair.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, straight
lines,
lines or stuffing fence lines, that sort of stuff. It's great for channels. In our area, we've a lot of irrigation. Great for doing channels.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Now, what's the price point on this? This says contact us. Oh no, it's got stuff.
No, there's prices on them. Yeah, so you're looking around the 4 plus $5,000, nearly up to 6, depending on what you want on it.
What you add onto it. There you go. And considering that people, 20 years. So how much is that a year? Is the warranty on the trailer as well? Surely that would wear out.
Yeah,
just a tank.
The 20-year warranty is definitely on the tank, and then we have a 1-year warranty in anything we build. But we would expect like a trailer that I've seen them come back and they're nearly 20 years old.
Yeah, well, it depends on where you leave it, and like
and all he
how you
was,
treat
was
it.
a new pump.
But if people have a look at go have a look at this online if you want to see it, because it's definitely, I can't really describe to you how much of a step up it is from even their own Weedmaster trailer series, right? It's a proper trailer, proper custom made stuff. Let's talk about your on deck stuff. Am I on that?
Awesome
I am.
Range of on decks. Yep, we've got quite a few in there.
This is for people who would have a ute and they want really large stuff on the back of the ute. So you're getting up
UTV,
to
yeah,
or you could get to 1,000 liters. So obviously that's a lot of weight, but it's down to, what's the smallest one? 150.
150.
So side by side,
150,
you
200. Yep, and then the on decks range is generally a 300 liter.
Mm-hmm.
Great for contractors.
Now, my friend of the channel, Ben Sims. I don't know if you know of Lawn Tips. You guys sent him some stuff a while
Yeah,
ago.
Ben. Yep, we like Ben.
So he showed one that was it had a lot of bells and whistles, and I think
Yep.
you gave him the one with all the bells. I don't know if it was you, but somebody, Sid,
Someone
whoever it
did.
was at the
Partridge.
business,
Yep.
sent him a really good unit, and I was quite impressed. In fact, that's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to get you on is seeing him on the channel and seeing the stuff actually being used, because I can
Yep.
go on the website and have a look at something and go, oh, looks pretty. Seeing it used, it just makes sense. But okay, a few things. I'm going to click on this guy here.
Yep.
Right. These are things that people won't appreciate unless you explain it to them, and I didn't know. This little thing here, that's for tie down points, right?
Correct. Yep. So you run a strap over
That
that ratchet strap and strap it down, and that's it. It doesn't go anywhere.
So people who are listening, the actual frame itself has a little point. So the plastic is so strong, you can strap it down. They don't bolt a metal thing to it or something like that. So that's fascinating. But you have a whole variety of different motors and different pumps. It's hard
Correct.
to describe the pricing point because these are fit for purpose. And there's, I don't know, a dozen,
Yeah.
maybe
Easy a dozen, probably more.
actually
Different
way
reels,
more.
etc. Yeah. Yep.
6, 16, 20, 24, 32, 36, something like that. Different
Yep.
options. So what's a price point for, let's say that we'll go the 300 litre to 1,000 litre. Oh, let's go 300 to 600 and then so 600 to 1,000. What sort of price point? I mean, obviously people, I mean, Brian's doing the maths in the background, but
No, I'm just looking
there's
it up. Yeah.
there's a variety of pumps. You can have twin reels, single reels, booms on them, blah blah. So look, you got to take this with a grain of salt and go contact them. I just want you guys to understand the range you're thinking of. So what kind of range are we looking there, Brian?
So, like for a 150 on deck, you're looking at around the $2,000 mark, just under, just for a,
Mm-hmm.
electric pump and no reel. Obviously, jumps up a bit more the more you add onto it. Then you get up to the 300s with a basic electric pump, and you're looking at about 3.5 grand. Then you'll go to your Honda pumps, etc., and you're looking up around between 6 or 7 grand. And then obviously, then we go to a super reel, which is a retractable reel.
Yes.
So you know remote control. Everybody likes a remote control. You're looking around the 10 grand plus.
Well, this is the super reel is what you gave to Ben, right?
Yeah,
And I don't
yep.
know the size of his tank wasn't that big, right? But
Wasn't that big, so he would have only had a 50-meter super reel on it, probably.
only 50 meters for
Only
most
50.
of
We
us.
do
That's
well.
more than
We do
what
up
we
to
would need.
150 meters. So you know we've got some
What?
people that are people that are contractors up in the hills, etc. And that, and they're using it to nearly abseil down the hill to get themselves back up. So
How does okay? So I've got a hose reel at my warehouse, right?
yep,
Not like not like this, right? Like a classic Gardena literal hose, like watering hose,
yep,
and I water all my plants with it. And the bottom of my warehouse is a dust bowl, right? Like because it's
yep,
just like everybody else, and it doesn't look dusty. And then you get the hose out, and a little bit of water drips on the hose because you're using it to water the plants and stuff like that. And you retract it back in, and it gets all the mud and stuff stuck on it,
yep,
and it wrecks it. I got to blow out this reel and hose it down and stuff like that on a semi-regular basis because of how much stuff it collects.
yeah.
Do we get this problem with
No,
these reels?
it's a different hose. We call it a slipper hose. It's very I don't know what you call it, shiny, but slipper hose. It slides over everything and doesn't collect
Mm-hmm.
a lot of dust and wet and all that sort of stuff. So when it drags back, 100 meters or whatever, it's knocking a lot of that stuff off before it's getting back into the reel. But also, it doesn't collect a lot. It's not like a garden hose that's a bit textable and pliable. This is quite stiff hose, and it slides over rocks and trees and etc. That sort of stuff. So it doesn't collect a lot of dust and stuff on it.
The other thing is the which we haven't mentioned. What did you call it? The smart hose, or
A slipper
uh,
hose, yeah, yeah.
no? So I meant I did say hose, but I meant the reel. Is it a
Oh, the
smart
reel, a
reel?
super reel, yeah,
Super reel. That's right. You called
super reel,
it.
yep,
These are the ones with the button, right?
yep.
So can you describe that to me? Because that's cool. I didn't even know they existed.
So you just pull it out like a normal reel you would, and you go off and spraying. And then when you finish spraying, you just you have a little remote on your lanyard, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Press your button, and it starts retracting for you. Just wheels it in.
Smart. People are smart. Like dealing with my 15-meter hose reel at the warehouse, and you tug it and it doesn't come back, and you tug it again and it doesn't come back, and it finally comes back. And there's another point where you won't want it to come back, and it goes back, and I can imagine that's very frustrating if you've got a 50-meter reel and you're out on the side of a hill, and it's
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And
So
contractors love it. So it's just saves you energy winding it back in. Like you said, you can spray all day with it, and then just hit the button, and you just walk back with it.
what does one of those super reels cost? Just the reel on its own,
Just the reel itself. Just give me a second.
like a couple of zinger boxes or something.
I wish.
3
Your
cups of
50
coffee.
meter ones, a 50 meter reel is going to be about 3.7, 3.8 for a 50 meter.
Yeah,
So, and then you're looking about 150-meter reel is going to a bit over $5,000.
crazy. But look, if you're doing it all
But
the time,
I tell you,
you wouldn't go with
contractors love
anything
them.
else.
Yeah, I wouldn't use anything else.
I think a lot of people who are listening to this, especially if you're the type of person who's thinking the 100 liter tank with your little, standard reel, you'd be
Yep.
like, I'm happy with that. But it's one of
We
those
try to
things that
cater for everybody.
you get tempted. You'll get tempted, won't you?
Oh,
You'll be like,
yeah.
whoa. Again, it sort of proves my masculinity, I think,
Yeah, we do have a few
know.
customers, and we have a lot of repeat customers. Once they buy one TTO product, they buy another one, come back and go, oh, I should have bought a bigger one, or I should have bought this.
I wonder how many people have, because here's what we're like as men, right? We want to go,
Yep.
we buy something just because it's cool, whether we need it or not. I wonder how many people have been hobby farmers or something like that. I mean, you probably know this if you're in the conversation for the sale. They've bought something and
Yep.
they could have easily done it with a normal reel, but they're like,
100%. We've had some customers go, oh, just something with water the trees, but I'll buy a full firefighter trailer.
yeah, of course.
So,
And that's the customers we all want in our business.
yes,
You could
correct.
do the cheaper thing, but we
Yeah,
don't
but
even need to convince you. We have to convince you
no,
not to spend your money.
yeah. And I'll put the deflector spray heads on the back just to keep the dust down as well.
yeah, exactly. And then how many times do they actually end up using it? So
Yeah. I think people love our products, and they do use it quite a fair bit. It's great.
let's talk briefly because I feel like we're. Excuse me, I'm very coffee this morning.
You
Sorry, people who's having to listen to that. The 1,000-liter stuff, 800,000 liter. Not many people who are listening to this will be interested, but we do
Yep.
have people who are golf course superintendents who listen to this podcast. People who
Yep.
are, and we've had people on the podcast who a big chunk of their business is spraying, and doing sort of like noxious weed control for councils. We had Andrew Thompson on, who's this about probably 20 so episodes ago. That's a lot of what he does.
Yep.
So for the small number of people who are interested, what makes the 600 to 1,000 liter range, interesting and I guess unique, special about what TTI is doing?
Well, like I said, apart from our warranty with it, but our backup service, we have all these parts in store in the warehouse. You can get that. We're happy to take your calls, but also they're user friendly. They're not, they're not hard to use. They're great products. You can use them all day. Very rarely do you have to have issues with them. We put Honda motors on 99% of our stuff because Honda give a 5-year warranty with the motor. So you get that. That's with Honda, not with us, but with Honda. We back it up, obviously. Bernoulli pumps, same thing. They've got their own warranty. All pumps and regulators are that product's warranty, which is great. You can get service straight away, and we have no problems replacing if needed and that sort of stuff. So perfect there. You get 1,000 litre, you go spray all day with that.
Oh, mate, I could spray all week.
Yeah.
$20,000 is roughly the range for the most expensive thing that is on that 1,000 liter range.
Yeah.
So, but again, if that's your business model, a lot of people here, for those who, I'm going to ask Brian for some interesting stories in a second because customer care is going to be a fascinating job to have. But
right.
For those, he's nervous. But when you talk about this $20,000 to me, I've got a ride-on lawnmower that's a lot more expensive than that. If that's your business, it's kind of not that expensive considering.
It's not, and if serves you every day, day out, sometimes 6 days a week.
Yeah,
That's what you want.
exactly.
You want reliability. Yep.
Exactly. So obviously, people, if that's not your, don't go spend $20,000 if that's not really what you do. But I'm just thinking that some people have gone to this. They're looking at their $40 Bunnings knapsack and the $20,000 1,000 liter super reel with twin reels and blah blah.
Yeah, it's
And
probably
they're
a little bit
going,
overkill for the backyard.
yeah. Can you imagine if maybe someone who was like a farmer who already had it and they downgraded
Yeah,
their house, but
and
they
we get
wanted to
that.
keep it. They got their
Couple of
thousand
farmers, the
liter
wife says,
sprayer.
"Oh, I need this bit sprayed over there," and they just whip around with the trailer and on deck or
Yeah.
something like that and spray it all.
The frustrating thing would be washing out the 1,000 liter tank because you put in 5 liters of glyphosate and then you want to do five liters of liquid fertilizer. It'd take you longer to
Oh, that's
wash
right.
it out than it would to drive down and buy a new 5 liter sprayer.
But
So,
all those tanks on those units too, they're all fully drainable, so they're great for washing out. Like that is a sump, what we call a sump tank. So it's got an actual sump at the bottom where it all runs into. So when you wash that out, it's fully drainable. It's not going to have a flat spot or anything in the bottom of it.
oh, that's good. Yeah. My tank, though, I actually have to lift it up because the thing's on the side.
Yeah,
I put a
yeah.
piece
So
of
those
wood
big tanks are
underneath the
fully
frame.
drainable, so you can wash them out completely. Disconnect the hoses. Great.
How do you recommend washing them out on something that big? Because I just use tank cleaner for my 100 liter tank. I put some tank cleaner in,
Yep.
and which for people who don't know, it's like a powder that you can just scoop in and then fill up the tank with water. I use a hose that's got an adjustable head on it, so
Yep.
like a wand, so I can
Yep.
blast the inside. Am I doing it right? Is that the same sort of thing you would do for a big
100%.
tank?
That's how you do it. Yeah. 100 do it. That's how you do it. We always also run it through the pumps, your hoses, etc. So
Mm-hmm.
you will need more water to go through there. Do it where it's environmentally friendly, obviously on a track or somewhere where you're not worried about where you're going to kill anything that's near it, and no, not near waterways, obviously. But yeah, you flush it out and flush all your hoses out and nozzles, etc. Exactly as you just described it.
This story didn't happen, but I'm going to tell you it anyway. I had an employee who they don't work for us anymore. Great guy, right?
Yep.
Moved on from the industry. Was a licensed spray technician. Was cleaning out a sprayer, and at our warehouse we've got like garden beds, right? And typically what we do is we'll just pour like not full concentrate, but let's say you've got 15 liter knapsack or whatever, and you've got your 100 ml of product left at the bottom. Fill
Yep.
it up all the way, clean it out. And the first thing we'll do is we'll pour it out into the garden beds, which is where our product's going anyway, people. So it's not an environmental thing.
Yep.
Our flat of units is quite exposed, right? Like we're not hidden. We're on right open to the road, and 2-3 units down is a party studio, right? So there's always people coming in and out. And directly outside of our door, our roller door, is a drain, right? In the
Right.
concrete. Yep. And this licensed spray technician filled up the tank with water and then poured it directly down the drain. Oh. And I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? You're supposed to be licensed. Like, anyways, there wasn't much product in the end, but I was like, that is going straight to, the ocean or, the lake or whatever it is.
Yeah, some sort of waterway. It's in a drainage system.
So oh my goodness. I was so shocked that someone was licensed, and it wasn't just that because it was genuinely, he was nice. He genuinely didn't know that he was doing something wrong there. He felt so embarrassed. I was like, how do you not? Anyways. But like I said, that didn't happen. One more thing I do want to talk about. You mentioned briefly these fancy booms.
Yep.
Is this one of the ones with the fancy booms, or is this
No.
one?
It's probably scroll up on the back of one of those. Have a versatile boom. Yep.
Well, how about we just describe it for the listener, because it sounds like you can switch things on and off.
Yes, correct.
So yeah, we're back to the Trail Pro, right? That's the one we were talking about before.
Yep.
So how does this work? Because what you're saying is you could have 3 nozzles open and then press a button. Am I understanding right? And have 1 nozzle open.
No, not press a button. Although we can hook up a solenoid one if you wanted to. If you want to really go out and spend a lot of money. That's a custom
Really
job, but no drums. We
impress your
could do
family?
solenoids for every nozzle if you wanted to. We got taps on them. So what it is I think there's three steps, four steps of taps maybe.
Mhm.
So on either end, there's what we call a fence line nozzle, and they have a separate tap each.
Yep.
Then you have three nozzles in the center, and they have their own tap. And so you can turn them on and off as you needed. So the width of that trailer, that boom's only 1.2 meters wide,
Mhm.
but it'll spray up to 4 meters. So if you wrap that around a
Right.
fence or run it into something, I think you need your license taken off you.
So it's I'll try and describe it to people. There's like a jet nozzle just here.
Yeah, on the
That's
edge, and it's on a pivot, so it can swivel. You can turn it
that's the
around,
tap. I can see the
and
tap.
that's the tap.
There you
Yeah, so
go.
it's turned off in that picture, but yeah, you can turn that on, and then you can have them all on, all the taps on, and you'll give you a 4 meter spray, or you can turn all bar one off on the side, and that'll give you just out the side, so it'll give you a 1.2 meter spray on the side. Great for doing like I said, the fence lines, that sort of stuff. Or
Yep.
if you want to just spray directly behind the width of your vehicle, there's the three nozzles behind there, and you can run them by themselves.
Awesome. All right, so I want to get into the customer care side now. I feel like you've got so many options. We could talk about the sprayers forever, but people should just jump on the website.
Yep.
Here's what I find when I go online, and having run a business for 10 years, we all know what happens, right? People get frustrated at the brand, and we have the attitude that the customer's always right. The customer's not always right, though, right? I was doing
I will agree with you there.
I was doing some research for a different company that like hedges and mowers and whippersnippers and blah blah. I won't name the brand, but I was looking at these reviews online, and this lady had commented. I have a feeling that she was a little bit older, just from the name, and she had
Yep.
given a product a 2-star review, I believe. It was a hedge trimmer, and she said the
Yep.
product cuts fantastic, but it's a little bit too heavy. Like, why did you sure you held it before you bought it? Like,
Yeah.
what? It's like it's a hedge trimmer and it does the thing you said you wanted it to do. It does it great by your own admission, but it's 2 stars. But man, that, and then the average of the entire piece of equipment is brought down. And I have no affiliation with them. I don't, whatever. It's just people do that, right? So
100%. They'll look at the smallest negative before they look at the big positive.
Right. And so, I mean, customer care must be. I don't have the temperament for it, right? I'm kind of like, no, shut up. You're
Some days I don't. No, it is quite rewarding though, especially because you do get some customers that generally call and say thank you for helping and etc. and that sort of stuff. Got up and running and was able to finish the job that they were under pressure to do. And then you get other people, and we normally get the phone call when people are most frustrated.
Oh, of course.
And yeah, you've got to sort of step back. It's not personal. It's about what they need to get off their chest, and then we'll try and solve the issue for them.
Has anybody ever come back to you and apologized for being stupid?
No. I'm going to say no. I have had some come back and thank us, but not actually apologise.
Well, I mean, I'll take the thank yous. What's the?
I'll take that. I'll take that as a thank you.
Yeah, look, that is. What's this? What are the sillier things that someone's complained about that come to mind? Obviously, we don't want to embarrass any individuals. We're not trying to out anybody.
No, I won't name and shame anybody, but I did have a customer come in and say that our Lancers were no good, that they were rubbish. And I asked her for a photo of the Lance because she said the hose wouldn't go on properly. And she sent the photo, and she actually had it was an Inter Lance, and she actually had the handle backwards. So in the Lance, there's a filter in it, so it didn't go. It was going the opposite way.
Well, it is rubbish if you put it on backwards.
Yeah, she was right. It was wrong.
Yeah.
Crap.
Have you ever had somebody spray the wrong product and then blame you?
we get sometimes a few calls asking us when we can come and spray stuff for them.
Right. Yep.
Um, we're not
Tuesday.
a
I've got
spray
some
company.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just knock it out Tuesday. We're not a spray country. We're a manufacturer of spray gear, so it sometimes that can be quite funny. And we've also, because we're in the water cartage, supplying tanks for all that. We've asked people. Well, I think we get one a month at least that ring up and ask when they can get a truckload of water delivered. And they're probably in Western Australia, and we're in
Yep.
Victoria, so it's quite
May
funny
as well call
sometimes.
me over here in WA.
Exactly.
We got a lady. We maybe 3 or 4 times a year, someone on a different state will ask us to do some work.
Yep.
And anyways, you end up getting a classic reply is we just send a screenshot of the Google Maps travel time, and we just say we'd be happy to help you, but you just need to cover the this many hours of accommodation, fuel, costs, travel time, blah blah blah, and we always put a little smiley
Yeah.
face behind it so that people understand we're having a laugh, and it's always a good.
We're having a bit of a laugh.
It's a fun interaction, and it's funny because sometimes we respond to the bad or the irrelevant inquiry quicker than someone in the actual area will respond to it. And there has been times that someone has gotten back to us, and it's been like, well, you're the only one that's responded so far, so maybe I'll have to think about it.
Yeah. No, true. Yeah, we get a few. We sell Australia wide, so we do have that issue of distance and travel with some issues. It's not like we can just pop out the road and fix it for you. There's a lot of talking over the phone to get them to understand that, but also we've got a good dealer network, which a lot of stores sell our products through CRT, Norco, H&P, Hutchinson Pierce, those sort of companies.
Yep.
They're great. They've already got machinery. They understand a lot of our gear, which is awesome. So they can find someone local usually.
And what is the number one problem that we as the users are causing that we could save ourselves and you a bit of time if we just stopped doing this dumb thing?
Oh, I don't think there's just one thing. I think people just making sure they clean their gear out properly. It can be the 12-litre pump. 12-volt pumps. Make sure you flush them out. I say to people, if it's not running quite well, take the filter off, put a garden hose in there, and run it while the garden hose on with that extra pressure. It'll flush the valves. It'll get it clean.
Right.
Because if you just run it and pump the normal and just wash it out as normal, you're relying on the pump moving all that stuff through. With the garden hose, you get that little bit of extra pressure, and we find that fixes a lot of the problems of the valves sticking or a little bit of sediment or something getting through on them.
Awesome. Well, mate, I think we're happy to leave it there. I've enjoyed the time. Yep. I've learned a lot. I didn't know anything about rotor molding, and now
happy to see you in the shed in the morning. And
exactly, I'll fly over.
That's the cool shift.
I'll have to send you the quote for the travel time and accommodation just to get there.
That is true.
But where do people find you, or TTI specifically? Not literally you. Don't give us your home address.
No, I'm not giving you a home address. I am only a couple of blocks from work, so that's all good. I'll walk to work.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's www.tti.com.au. And also, if you're after the Inter-range, there's a website for that as well. So
fantastic.
It's just Inter. Yep.
And look, people, I love Australian brands. If this is something that's worth doing, then for you, jump on the website and support them. Thanks so much for coming on, Brian. And
awesome. Thanks, Luke. Thanks for your time.
We'll see you guys in the next podcast.